The Green Bay Packers dominated the Detroit Lions the same way Detroit usually beats people. They bullied the Lions in the trenches. We are live on YouTube. Let's do it.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's post-game episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. The Green Bay Packers did to the Detroit Lions what the Detroit Lions have been doing to everyone else for 2 straight years, and that is win up front, dominate in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, and it started on the very first drive. Jordan Love and the Packers marched right down the field. 3 third-down conversions. Jordan Love had all day to throw every time he dropped back to pass. Did the Packers have a lot of running room? No, that's because the Lions were selling out to stop Josh Jacobs and daring the Packers to beat them against man coverage. And guess what? The Packers beat them in man coverage with consistency. Romeo Doubs on a play-action shot play. Matthew Golden on a third down. Dontavian Wicks on a third down. And then you get the touchdown at the end. It was the perfect way to start. And then on defense, you lock down Jared Goff, force a 3-and-out in what ended up being a harbinger of things to come for this defense. And what did Jordan Love say? Micah Parsons, he had visions. Oh, Micah Parsons is going to be announced last. The crowd is going to go wild, which, by the way, did happen. And then on the first drive, Micah Parsons is going to get a sack to force a 3-and-out. Well, he didn't get a sack, but he got a pressure that turned into an incompletion that turned into a 3-and-out. Micah Parsons and this defense, from top to bottomest, whooped up on this Detroit Lions team. I thought, and I said this on the show over and over and over, that I thought this Lions offensive line was going to take a step back. I said all week, this is how you attack this Lions team. Right now, they are dealing with flux. Graham Glasgow at center, Christian Mahogany at left guard, and Tate Ratledge, the rookie, at right guard. I did not expect the ass kicking that would ensue by the Packers. Rashawn Gary had a sack and a half, including a near safety. Micah Parsons had a sack. Devontae Wyatt had a sack. Lucas Van Ness had a sack. It was everybody. It was everybody. And it was the most tackles at or behind the line of scrimmage in the Dan Campbell era. At one point in the fourth quarter, it was 15 of 21 runs were hit at or behind the line of scrimmage. And by the way, after that, they tackled Jahmyr Gibbs behind the line again. 15 of 21 runs hit at or behind the line of scrimmage. The reason that's unusual in the Dan Campbell era is because they're used to living on the other side of the line of scrimmage. They're used to blowing guys off the line. So all of the concern, Micah Parsons' run defense, totally overblown. The Lions could not run the ball in this game. 22 carries for 46 yards. If you want to take out the Jared Goff kneel down, that's fine. 21 carries for 47 yards. The numbers don't look any better. We're talking about a shade over 2 yards per carry. This was the most explosive run game in the NFL last year. Jared Goff, 31 of 39. Okay, that's nice efficiency, I guess, but 5.8 yards per attempt. And he threw a huge pick, a momentous pick in the red zone because Micah Parsons beats Penei Sewell cold. I mean cold on an inside move that was just unbelievable. Made me stand up from my seat because Penei Sewell does not get beat like that. I think when the final numbers come in, it will show that this was one of the highest pressure games ever given up by Penei Sewell. Kingsley Enagbare was getting pressures against Penei Sewell. That's how much this Packers defensive front dominated. And then in the second half for the Packers run game, all of a sudden, things start to open up for them a little bit. Josh Jacobs starts to hit, 6, 8, 15, and ultimately seals the game in the fourth quarter with the touchdown. Sluggish start to the third quarter, to be sure. They go 3 and out. You have that weird sequence. Jordan Love almost throws the interception. Then he throws a pick 6 that gets called back. Those plays are going to stick out in people's minds, and I understand why. But this was a dominant performance from start to finish. A dominant performance. And if this is the Packers' defensive front, and we're going to talk more about this defense in a second, but if this is what this Packers front looks like with Micah Parsons playing what will end up probably being between 30 and 40% of snaps, maybe less, 25 to 30% of snaps. If this is the version of the defense that you get, and this is the version of the pass protection that you get, I mean, look, this is not the best defensive front the Packers are going to face all year. Aiden Hutchinson has not played football in almost a year. But they dominated. And the Lions, they were trying stuff. They were sending extra bodies. They were trying to find pressure. And Jordan Love is just like, nope, this. Josh Jacobs was an MFer as a protection player. That was something he was inconsistent with doing last year. Every time a linebacker came free up the middle, Josh Jacobs, bang, meet him at the point Jordan Love has room to throw. And with the exception of that craft miss on the sail route, Jordan Love put the ball where he needed to all game. Brian Branch makes the diving play. That's a throw into coverage, but like the touchdown to Kraft is a missile shot. The seam ball to Jaden Reed, the deep post to Romeo Doubs, those were beautiful throws. Absolutely gorgeous throws from Jordan Love. When he has time, he can just put the ball wherever he wants. And I thought Tony Romo called it out well. They started fast. And then Jordan Love played the game he needed to in the second half. And by the way, that's including a Jaden Reed drop up the sideline where you like that could have put the game earlier a little bit sooner, I guess. Could have put the game away a little bit sooner. That was a perfect throw into coverage. So I thought Jordan Love played a pretty clean game overall. The one throw into coverage, Brian Branch makes an all-pro play. It doesn't count. There's holding. Part of the reason why he had to get to that last option is because Romeo Doubs was being held. And so those plays, that counts. I still don't understand why you don't get to count the unnecessary roughness. Like if the possession changes and the rule is you can't hit the quarterback and you hit the quarterback, that rule is designed for a possession change. So if there was a penalty that helped cause the turnover and then you just get a free shot at the quarterback, that doesn't make any sense to me. But that's a conversation for another day. When I talked to Matt Derry, what I said was the Packers are going to win this game, and I was emphatic about it. The Packers are going to win this game. The Packers are going to win this game because they have to. And that was true, and you could feel it from the jump that this team came out with a focus and an intensity. We talked about that with Lily Zhao. This team seems to be more mature. They seem to be more dialed in. They are ready to make this move into Super Bowl contender. But I thought the Lions looked lethargic. Looked like they had a Super Bowl hangover. Uninspiring defensive play calling. Really uninspiring offensive play calling. I mean, they could do nothing. And that part of that was because your offensive line can't block. And so, you'd love it when a plan comes together. But look, we've been talking about this for weeks, months on this show. The loss of Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn they were going to be felt from a scheming standpoint. But this was not about scheme. Not only about scheme. This was about mano a mano winning your battles. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson didn't come close to Jordan Love. And every single member of the Packers who played, I think you will find on the stat sheet on Monday, has a pressure. They got after what had been one of the best offensive lines in the league. And if you thought they were just going to roll merrily along because that's just what the Lions do, it's not. Like, I don't know when Dan Campbell got the benefit of the Andy Reid or Bill Belichick doubt. And maybe those are two bad examples right now. We just assume he's just going to like manipulate all of this stuff when now he doesn't have two of the guys who are the like big time drink stirrers in terms of the straw that stirs the drink. I don't understand that. Now, for the Packers defense to play the way that they did, what they absolutely had to do was get off to a hot start. And what did the Packers do? They got off to a hot start. We'll talk about that when we come back on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. It's quick, easy, and my favorite way to follow along with Football Plus. Every week, they give you what is essentially a free pass. This week, it's Lamar Jackson, 0.5 passing yards. Next week, it's Travis Kelce, 0.5 receiving yards. You pick Travis Kelce in your lineup, he makes one catch past the line of scrimmage. You are all set, winning that piece. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play that first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Upside. Are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store, Google Play right now, and start earning cash at the pump today. Using my limited promo code TOUCHDOWN, you can get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it is totally legit. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card, Amazon, other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited promo code TOUCHDOWN for 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. We mentioned the fast start. And one of the biggest reasons why was that pass protection, but it happened in a particular way. When this charting is finished, this is going to show it is the most 2 tight ends and 2 running backs, so heavy personnel, the Packers have played in the Matt LaFleur era. I'm telling you. They played 12 personnel with 2 tight ends on the field. I think most of the game. Some of the third downs, they didn't. But other than that, it was, we think we have an advantage against you when we have our big guys on the field. And that was throwing the ball, that was play action, that was running the ball. Now, early on, they couldn't get the running game going. I loved, by the way, late in the game, Darian Kennard is out there. Zach Tom was dealing with an injury. He got flipped on the interception and landed on his hip. You hope it just sore. As someone who had a very similar accident when I got hit by a car in Manhattan, crossing the street, just came around the corner, bang! I landed on my hip. Had no damage from where I got hit, but the damage was from landing on the sidewalk. That side was the side that got hurt. But they start just running the ball down the Lions' throat at the end. They put Anthony Belton out there at the end. I loved that. That's the Packers saying, hey, look, I know we're kicking your butt, but we got to get some of these guys some work. So just don't mind us. Just don't mind us. We're good. And they didn't press when the running game didn't work. They weren't able to get, anything on a 1 yard run, 0 yard run, 2 yard run, 0 yard run. That was the running game on the first drive. And they marched the ball down the field because Jordan Love had plenty of time to complete passes on third down. 3rd and 10, Oh, Dontavian Wicks for 16. No problem. Oh, 3rd and 6. Matthew Golden. There he goes. 11 yards. I thought Matthew Golden would have a bigger day against man coverage, but in part because I thought Jaden Reed would be more limited than he ended up being. This offense is only going to get better doing this kind of stuff. And then the touchdown, 3rd and 9. And that ball, I mean, a seed from Jordan Love. An absolute heater for that touchdown. It was about as good as it's going to get from a first drive of the season. Now you have all off season to get that ready. You know what you're going to see from this Lions team. And it's not Aaron Glenn calling the plays. It is the copy of Aaron Glenn. Maybe we'll see. Look, Kelvin Shepard could turn out to be a really good coach. Week 1 did not look really good. Anytime you have a coach that leaves and they just promote from within and expect that guy to be as good or better, I get nervous. Because that does not have a long track record of working. When you think, especially when you think you have a coach who is a virtuoso, like Ben Johnson, a virtuoso as a play designer. We're not even going to get into the Caleb Williams stuff, but man, if you read that was funny. And if you didn't, go along a 3-part series on how the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams are an absolute dumpster fire. Go check that out. But what you needed in this game was for a really good game plan. And it helps that you have a defensive coach that I think was just ill-prepared to deal with it. The Packers wanted their linebackers on the field. They felt like they had mismatches when that was the case. Now, what the Lions ended up doing is they said, okay, if that's what you want to do, we'll make sure that we've got safeties on your linebackers in coverage, and that made it more difficult. But none of the pressure got home. No one was winning one-on-one for that front. And the Packers managed everything from a blitz and pressure standpoint. There wasn't really any pressure to deal with. That's Matt LaFleur. That's game planning. That's being ready to go week 1. Now you're going to have to do it again. You got to have a quick turnaround and go back and play a really good Commanders team. Commanders team that, didn't play great against the Giants. They didn't play great against the Giants last year. They went to the NFC Championship game. It's going to be a tough test for the Packers coming in here, but a test against an offensive line that, frankly, I think is worse than the one that they just played. Now we'll see. They didn't do a terrible job against a Giants front. I don't want to spend too much time going into the Commander stuff, but like this is the reason I bring this up is because this is what you need to do. This is what you have to be able to do. Is find ways to start fast. Did I wish that they would have been able to put together a touchdown drive and make it 14-0 instead of 10-0? Yes. Are you quibbling a little bit there? Yeah. But it's 3rd and 3. 3rd and 3 in the box score. I think it was 3rd and 4 on the broadcast. And Jordan Love, one-on-one on the outside. This is where Aaron Rodgers, and frankly, a lot of quarterbacks, would throw their one-on-one on the sideline. They know they've got the concept to the right, and they got one-on-one here to the left against your best receiver. And Jordan Love is going to give Romeo Doubs a chance. Romeo Doubs did not get a great timing on the jump to get the ball. Could not make a play. The concept was going to get someone open. And Love, I think, just did what Aaron Rodgers used to do, and that is throw the ball to Devontae Adams. Well, Romeo Doubs is not Devontae Adams. If that's Devontae Adams, I have no problem with it whatsoever. But the play was working. The plays were working so well that I don't know why you felt like you needed to get a little greedy there. I think you could make the case if it really had been 3. I think it was 4. I didn't want to question it at the time, but I did think, like, do you go for it here? Do you really put the pedal to the floor here? And I think you can make the case that that's what Dan Campbell would have done. Still, the way the defense looks, the way the defense is playing, I understand taking the points there. And then from there, it really was the defense. I mean, the Lions didn't get to 10 points until late in the fourth quarter, and it took a review of a frankly ridiculous catch by Isaac Tesla. But when you have the defense, we talked to Bob Sturm about this. Micah Parsons is the closer, and we saw it in this game. He gets the sack in the second half. Devontae Wyatt, the sack. Rashawn Gary with the near safety. This pass rush, man, if this pass rush can do this to Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell, what can they look like against any other team? And by the way, that Eagles offensive line looked like it had some vulnerabilities, more than we're used to against the Dallas Cowboys in week 1. Now, maybe that's just week 1. But for this Packers team to get to where they want to get to, this front can take them there. And if you get out to 10-0 leads in the first quarter, this defense is going to be able to shut the door. Then Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, we saw it. Teams want to just take what they can get. Bing, 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 a little slant, little something. Evan Williams now sitting on that little inbreaker. And he gets the interception in the red zone. It's all predicated on the offense being able to start there so that they don't have to worry as much about running the ball. But this defense, I mean, the amount of rallying and tackling at the ball, I was blown away. It's hard to remember a game where they rallied to the ball like this. This was a defensive masterpiece, and I want to talk more about it next on Locked On Packers. This episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being at the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. And let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Game Time at halftime to check out the Commanders. There are some amazing deals right now. Right now, you could go check out Packers Commanders. There's tickets available, and you know you want Packers people to get those seats, not the Commanders people. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the app today. This defense, this was Jeff Hafley's masterpiece. And even if you include the garbage time stuff, the Packers allowed 246 total yards to the Detroit Lions. That's 3.8 yards per play. 3.8 yards per play. 3.8 yards per play. That's absurd. That's absurd against an offense that was unbelievable last year, was a top 3 offense in the NFL last year. Now, this is not totally unusual for the Packers. In fact, the last time these two teams played at Lambeau Field, the Packers only gave up 261 yards of offense, 4.7 yards per play. This was even better, and it wasn't in the rain. You didn't have any help from the rain. And this was right from the beginning. There was coverage disguises, constant movement up front. It seemed a little bit like on the first drive where they a little disorganized, guys constantly communicating, the defensive linemen talking to each other, linebackers trying to get guys lined up, corners, safeties, everybody communicating. But by the end, you could tell it was communication, not confusion. And Jeff Hafley just had this game plan fully dialed. They were all over the base stuff for the Detroit Lions. And I think, again, this comes back to coaching. Ben Johnson is not out there. Ben Johnson, I joked at halftime, but it was a half joke. Like, when is the trick play coming? They never did it. There's no way Ben Johnson would have had 6 points through 3 quarters and not tried a trick play. They would have had something for that scenario, but you have a new offensive coordinator, John Morton, who's called plays in the NFL one time in his professional career. They did not have the time to push the ball down the field. And when they tried, even off play action, no one's open. They hit Sam Laporta one time on a deep shot. One time. And there was pressure in Jared Goff's face. He had to make an unbelievable throw with 2 guys bearing down on him. And I said it, I put it on social media. I said, make Jared Goff continue to make throws under pressure. The most pressure-sensitive preferred starter in the NFL. And the Packers were unrelenting. And it wasn't just pressure. There was a play in the low red zone where the Packers, I think it was the first field goal. The Packers forced the field goal. Might have been the second field goal. I'd have to check. Let me check my notes. And it was a play that Jared Goff didn't know where he was. The Packers showed an all-out pressure look, and they brought three. And Jared Goff had to move off his spot initially. And then it looked like he thought the pressure was going to be home. And so he just was and threw it, and it was a bad throw, and they had to settle for a field goal. Those are the sorts of things that Jeff Hafley can scheme up where guys don't even have to get home. They just have to make Jared Goff uncomfortable. And that's what happened. The very first drive of the game, Lucas Van Ness is in on every single play, the first 3 plays, and was making plays all game. On that third down, they had Van Ness, Parsons, and Cooper in that order. So Van Ness as a sort of 5-tech, Parsons, and then Cooper outside of him. And I think Cooper dropped in that play, but Parsons immediately beats Penei Sewell, just absolutely works him on an inside move to get a pressure and to get a stop. It was every drive. It was like Jeff Hafley just read John Morton's mail. And there were a couple times, Lions' second drive, where you get an explosive to start the play, or the one long run of Jahmyr Gibbs' game, a ridiculous flag on Xavier McKinney on what would have been third and medium. You get an automatic first down. Amon-Ra cooks Keyshawn Nixon on a slant. But then what happened was the Packers were like, okay, if all you're going to do is run slants because you don't have time to do anything else, they start pressing up a little bit. The safeties start creeping up a little bit. And the Lions just never ended up having enough time to push the ball down the field. Because even off play action, the Packers defenders were winning, or everything was covered up. Every time they wanted to take a shot, the defense had it covered. And I can't wait to look at the coaches' tape, because then we'll see, okay, were there opportunities there? Did they actually have something and Jared Goff couldn't get to it? Which, by the way, that works too. Because plenty of quarterbacks, when the pressure is just constant, it's always on top of you, you're going to hit your back foot and feel like, I've got to get this ball out, even if you don't. And again, there was a play in the red zone where literally Jared Goff, I tweeted, it seemed like he didn't know where he was, because he turned around and expected someone to be in his face, and he's just like, That's what it means to speed up a quarterback. That was on the Lions' second drive. And guess where Micah Parsons lined up? Over the center. But it turned out to be a 3-man rush simulated pressure where they're not actually bringing everybody. Still, Goff is like, what do I do? And I joked, maybe I was half joking, about lining up. We didn't really see Parsons and Cooper double A gap, mugged up pressures. That's probably stuff that's coming. That these Lions would pee their pants if they saw that. They didn't quite pee their pants, but they gave up a bunch of sacks, a bunch more pressures. I mean, the pressure numbers for the Packers are going to be out of this world. And then how many other times did you hear Tony Romo say coverage sack? Even if it wasn't a sack, it's a throwaway, it's a check down, whatever. They made Goff check the ball down all game. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs had 9 carries and 10 catches. He was the target leader for the Lions. Had 10 catches for 31 yards. And you look at, okay, the best players for the Lions. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4 for 45. Jahmyr Gibbs, 10 for 31 as a pass catcher, 9 for 19 as a runner. David Montgomery, 11 for 25 as a runner. Jameson Williams, 4 for 23. Fresh off a big contract that I'm not going to pretend to understand. Sam Laporta was the only guy, 9 targets, caught 6 for 79 yards. And it was a lot of he's the check down. He's the open guy after, Jared Goff has to get the ball out quick. Or it's play action. You want to take the shot and it's okay, let's just dump the ball off to Sam Laporta. The Packers had all offseason to prepare for this. And I do think, I don't want to take anything away from them, but I do think going up against an inexperienced offensive coordinator benefited them. I'm not going to say Dan Campbell was exposed, but what I wrote for The Leap last week was it's going to take time for both of these coordinators, And Dan Campbell is going to have an opportunity to help. We'll find out just how good a coach Dan Campbell is. But week 1 is the perfect opportunity to catch this Lions team because they're just not going to be ready to go. And maybe they will be by the time the Packers play them on Thanksgiving. We'll see. But I think this offensive line is going to be, they don't have answers. Graham Glasgow stunk out loud in this game. If Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker are going to get beat, and Christian Mahogany is going to get bull rushed by Lucas Van Ness to Ashwaubenon, it's going to be a long season for Jared Goff. And if they can't run the ball the way that they're used to, which the Packers, without Kenny Clark, all of the kvetching and whinging about, oh, are they going to be able to stop Micah Parsons? He can't stop the run. They dominated the Lions on the ground. Dominated this Lions run game. And there was nothing interesting, nothing creative. This was like all the Ben Johnson stuff with none of the Ben Johnson stuff. You know, it's like you buy the Eric Repair cookbook, Le Bernardin or Daniel Boulud, and then you try and make the thing. It's like, yeah, I have the ingredients, I have the same stuff, but it's I don't have the technique, I don't have the art, the artistry. Play calling is an art, man. It's not a science. You can't just paint by numbers. And how many times have we seen coaches leave and they go, well, they have continuity. They've got the assistant. He'll just keep doing the same things. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Ben Johnson was one of the best play callers in the NFL. We talked about this last week. I said it at the start of our conversation with Coach A. The Eagles had great players and like meh coaching. And they ended up being a meh passing game. I don't think this is going to be this bad all year. But after one game, as someone who said, I think this team is going to take a material step back from like a top 3 offense to maybe a mid-tier offense between 9, not even mid-tier, but like between 9 and 14. Feeling pretty vindicated. Feeling pretty vindicated after one game. Now, the Locked On Packers squad show. An hour of post-game coverage is coming up next here on the Locked On Podcast Network, here on the Locked On Packers YouTube feed. For everybody else, for those of you listening, we appreciate you. We'll be back tomorrow with much more here as the Packers. Quick turnaround. Packers Commanders, Thursday night football. Follow me on the social medias. Follow the podcast on the social media. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts. Subscribe on YouTube so you can come hang out and watch us do Locked On Packers. And then an hour of postgame, baby. An hour more of postgame is coming at you on the Locked On Packers squad show. That's going to start here momentarily. If you're watching us live right now, just stay. We'll be on in a second. For you and everybody else, stay Locked On Packers.